And this is Jeff Koinange Live. Tonight, being a Wednesday, you know, it's all about politics, state of the nation, state of influx, state of corruption, state of something. Who better to take on a program of this magnitude, themes of this magnitude, than what I call the best political tag team on TV? No doubt, on the far end, the man from Emanuelia, publisher, political analyst, man about town. I call him a jack of all trades. Talk to him about Greek mythology. He's the man. Barrack, with the 2 R's, Muluka. The man in the middle. Oh, yeah. Get the pencil and paper and pen, thesaurus, wiki, whatever you want, Wikipedia. Take it all out, dictionary. Because Dr. PLO Lumumba is in the house. Together, they make a formidable team. We're going to try and tackle all that's been happening in this country the last few weeks or so. Take it away, gentlemen. Welcome to the program. By the way, Twitter handles are at Barrack M. PLO?
I refuse to be enticed.
At Koinange Jeff, the hashtag is JKL. Let's take it away. Gentlemen, my goodness, so much has been happening the last few weeks. First of all, let's start with Kajiado. Kajiado is an obvious one, and maybe not so obvious for Jap. Barrack, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that really nothing changed. That Kajiado belonged to COD in the previous dispensation, and that Kajiado remained with COD. I've read somewhere that Jap lost, and my position remains that you can't lose that which was never with you, which you never had. So it is back to where things always were.
But PLO critics would say this was Jap's debut. This was Jap's way of saying we're in the game, we're coming in. Don't you consider that a bit of a hit for them?
No, Jeff. First of all, I think Jap won. Memusi was a jilted Jap candidate. He moved and wore another dress and won in that dress. Both candidates were Jap candidates. So any analysis that suggests that Jap lost is misguided in my view. But if one were to be charitable to COD, one would say that they have simply retained what they had. So nobody has won, nobody has lost, but in my book, Jap has won. Because Memusi is truly a Jap candidate.
Good point. Barrack, ODM COD was waving that flag. They were celebrating like they had won the presidential election. Was it a little uncalled for? Was it a little premature?
No, I don't think so. And first, I don't agree with this notion here that Memusi, once he shifted the ground, and he remained there for COD.
Yeah.
But the stakes were very high. The president visited Kajiado 3 times, I think. The deputy president 4 times. And they made pronouncements to the effect that whatever the outcome, it would be a harbinger for what would happen in 2017. And therefore, I think playing to that script, COD had every cause to go to town and say, look, they said that this was going to be a demonstration of what will happen in 2017. So they had cause to celebrate. Let's allow them their few moments of glory in Kajiado Central.
All right, let's move from Kajiado. Let's go to Kabete after the unfortunate murder of former MP Mushai. Now, Jap has picked its candidate in the form of Baba Yao. PLO?
You know, that is at once the irony of Kenyan politics. The Waititu that I knew was a candidate in Nairobi, born and bred, and one would have thought that he would remain faithful to his Nairobi constituency. But in the quest for political office, he has migrated to Kabete, and for some reason, the people of Kabete have endorsed him and abandoned some of the old candidates like my good friend Lewis Nguyai. It is in many ways an indictment of our electorate, so that anybody who goes into an electoral territory and has things which entice, I do not know which things they are, is welcomed, and they don't consider the fact that this is not their man. He is in many ways an alien to the extent that he has been born and bred in Nairobi, and that is where he ought to be.
An alien who got something like 14,000 votes, Barrack. And PLO mentioned Louis Nguyai, former Kabete MP with he ended up getting like 1,900 votes. I mean, what does that say about...
You see, Nguyai arrives there saying that I'm the indigene of this place, and Babayao arrives equipped with the correct political campaign paraphernalia, and we all know what the correct paraphernalia is.
The right color.
Yes, and I think it's going to be quite titanic actually in Kabete, because he also arrives there in a confrontational mood, because he's targeting the governor Kabogo, and Kabogo is also equipped, I'm told, with the correct paraphernalia. So it's going to be titanic.
Yes, it's going to be interesting.
Yes, between whoever Kabogo supports and Babayao, because we have seen that they're saying, in fact, that Babayao is just rehearsing, that this is a curtain raiser for things to come, because he has got his sights cast on the big goal, and the big position is that of governor, of course.
PLO, let's explore this a little more and get a little serious, because when it comes to Chapter 6 of the Constitution, you all really fought to get, and we're talking about integrity. Waitito had been kicked out as assistant minister by Kibaki back then. He was given the position, or he was nominated for, I think, in charge of water or some resource, some parastatal, and they refused him on that count. Now he's running for... Do we get the leaders we deserve?
Yes, we do. We get the leaders we deserve. We have a constitutional dispensation which is very explicit as to what qualifications the leader ought to have. We watered it down and said that the political class were exempt from the strictures of those rules and regulations. And we have an individual who, although he has not been convicted, has been involved in a number of activities which call into question his integrity. He was at one time accused of making statements that cast aspersions on a particular ethnic group. He's been involved in stone throwing and many other things. And yet the people, in their wisdom, in quotes and quotes, think that this is the individual who should represent them. So if the people have made that choice, and one wants to assume that the people are all wise in matters political, then the people deserve the leaders that they have. And that is the reason why Kenya and many African countries will continue to punch under their political weight.
Absolutely.
Because when we are required to play a first 11, we play a third 11.
And happily.
And happily so.
Barrack, could we have a situation in 2017, and I'm asking you to look ahead, where the governor of Nairobi, at least aspiring, will be one Mike Sonko, the governor of Kiambu, one Ferdinand Waitito? Could we have that kind of situation?
It's very possible, because as I have said before, they have got what it takes to win an election in this country, that you come with wherewithal. You come properly equipped, let's just put it plainly, with bags of money, regardless of where you have sourced them and how you have sourced them. The people will elect you. And then things like the 6th chapter of the Constitution of Kenya, those are things which are done for purposes of window dressing, that we have put there the laws, but nobody really seriously believes in them. If we were to talk about integrity, who would be in government today? Who would be in power today? I think the whole political class has been put on the weighing scales of the 6th chapter of the Constitution, and they have been found wanting. And so to even question Waitito in isolation is to do great injustice to him. To question Sonko, who has also done quite some antics, lying the roads and other things which have been said about him, which I don't know whether they are true or they are untrue, but which require to be proven one way or the other. To isolate them is to be uncharitable to them. Look at what happened in Parliament on the 18th of December.
And nothing
Look at
happened
what
to
happened in Nakuru the other day.
Oh, yes.
See what happens at City Hall in a whole variety of places. It's the same thing.
And it's a reflection of us, isn't it, PLO?
Yes, it is, Jeff. And look at when Barrack talks about the whole idea of Chapter 6 and the whole idea of Chapter 6 being honored in breach, I can't agree with him more. If you give me a little latitude, just look at the vetting process that is going on. Every senior police officer that comes tells us, I have millions in my account. but I'm a full-time police officer. I've been saving all my income. My cousins have been sending me money from the United States, and nobody is enraged. We have, as a country, accepted that kleptomaniacs ought to run our affairs, and we are going to pay for it. It is a tragedy. In fact, I dare say that one of the most difficult, most painful things to be in this country today is to be truthful and to be honest.
Because no one's going to believe you.
Nobody is going to believe you.
But if you're a thief, you're a hero.
We canonize you and give you national honors.
Gentlemen, let me come back to Kajiado. I haven't given it enough justice because at the end of the day, it was a very fair and free election for the most part. There was something like only 100 spoiled votes. IEBC was in effect. Democracy reigned because there was no fighting, no pangas slashing, no stone throwing later on. It was a pretty fair by-election despite the pressure IEBC has come under.
As far as elections go in this country and using the past as the standard, we can say that Kajiado Central was good, and that perhaps IEBC needs to do more and more of the same. There was Homa Bay before, and we know about the fracas that did take place. Now those had nothing really to do with the IEBC. They had everything to do with the contestants and their supporters. So we do hope that people can also comport themselves a little differently. That said and done, there were all these manner of allegations of voter bribery. People were found with the heaps upon heaps of money, and therefore again it's a faulty election.
Yeah, but the winner, or rather the vanquished, and JAP for that matter, they said they're not going to contest this. They said let's move on. You know, show a bit of maturity at least.
Well, I don't want to be so charitable to IEBC. This is a single small constituency. All their resources
they have to start somewhere.
There is a sense in which in by-elections IEBC must of necessity do well because they are dealing with a very small geographical territory. And remember, part of the reason why the opposition insisted that Kivuito must not be removed is because he was performing well in by-elections and in a referendum. Part of the reason why we said that IELC was a good thing is because they were performing well in by-elections. They danced themselves lame in the preparatory dance, but when the main dance comes, they cannot dance. So I'm not about to praise them for dancing well during the rehearsals.
Yeah.
I want them to dance well in the main dance, and they never dance very well.
So do you think, PLO, do you think IEBC should be overhauled before the next election?
I hold the view that IEBC should be re-examined. I hold the view that allegations have been made against IEBC, some of which may be credible. I hold the view that the law does provide avenues for dealing with this and that it ought to be done, but I don't believe that it ought to be populated by representatives of political parties. But something ought to be done in advance of the elections, if only to restore the confidence of all the players. Don't give any side in the political divide an excuse to say the only reason why we have lost is because the referee was on their side.
Barrack, your thoughts?
The IEBC and the entire political fraternity as we have it in the country today ought to be overhauled.
Everything?
Everything. You look at what is happening in Parliament. You look at what is happening in another political institution that is called the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the IEBC. You look at all these and you cannot find any one of them that you can say that this is the body that we believe in. So as long as we have the IEBC, which is the old IEBC as we have known it, as long as we have the usual political class as we know them, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah. PLO, you were once head of the EACC, whatever it was called back then, and you tried your best. Yes. You tried to go after the big boys and girls, and you know what happened next.
You're not allowed.
You're not allowed.
You know, many times, and I sympathize with my colleagues at the EACC. I even read some people say, EACC should stop corruption. It's like telling a pathologist, stop death. The EACC has 3 mandates: civic education, prevention, and prosecution, which is what people want to see. People want to see blood. But immediately that EACC recommends prosecution, people recoil into their ethnic cocoons. You now see people from tribes saying our tribesman is not guilty. Our tribesman is innocent. So EACC will never, and anti-corruption bodies in the whole world will never stop corruption, because many times on matters criminal, they come after the event. But they can be effective if they are not politically neutered. First of all, in countries where corruption is endemic, the thing that you do is you grant them the power to prosecute, so that they don't have to be second-guessed by another body like the DPP in this country. So one of the things that I would want going forward, one, is to ensure that they have the power to prosecute, and for Kenyans to remember that they are part of the problem. If you are bribed to vote, if you say that people from your ethnic group can never do any wrong, he's a thief, but he's our thief, how are we going to stop corruption? So Kenyans must make a conscious decision. And you will know that President Kenyatta has issued what is called Executive Order number 6 of March 2015, in which he is admitting my government has recognized that corruption has assumed cancerous proportions, and that therefore these are the things that ought to be done. What I expect President Kenyatta to do, and I hope he will, riding on the crest of his executive order, to say anybody against whom credible allegations of corruption or impropriety have been made will not serve in my government, and I'll not require that they are convicted first. And not only that, that their property will be forfeited in accordance with the law. Many of these thieves, and let's call them for who they are, they don't care when you send them to court. In fact, it is another opportunity to bribe the judicial officer. So hit them where it hurts most. Many of these individuals, and we name them, sometimes we don't. If you ask them to account for their wealth, they cannot account for 90% of. They are not proud of their wealth. How can you have wealth that you are not proud of?
Yeah. Barrack, hold your thoughts on that, because I want to come back and tackle just that. Lakini, at the end of the day, hii nchi na wenyewe. Kabisa. I'm telling you.
Ambao ni sisi wananchi eh?
Sisi ni walala hoi.
We're going to take a break. Talk about that. And also Ababu Leaks, gentlemen. Ababu Leaks.
Yes.
Mumias as well. 3 billion plus. I mean, people talk about billions these days like it's...
Yeah, little change.
I once saw billions in my dreams. Once.
I haven't even dreamed that far.
Big dreams.
At Barrack M, at Koinange Jeff, the hashtag is JKL. It is Wednesday, and you know we're talking about the state of the nation right here on JKL. And JKL takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.